Hello, SpeedGaming 4. Welcome to another edition of the Super Metroid multi-category tournament. My name is Tracy M. With me today is Derp. How you doing, Derp?
I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, and we are doing a hundo today. 100% means we're going to see here a lot of item fanfares, picking up a whole lot of items. Should be starting any moment now.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, both these runners have pretty similar hundo times, and I know they're very similar in terms of execution level, so this is most likely going to be a pretty close race, so I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, Traviktox has a 122.48. MisterJGiggles with a 122.26. Really interesting that the higher seed, Traviktox being the higher seed, with the lower time, or with the slower time, did not choose to veto Hundo, and in fact deferred to Giggles, who decided to veto GT Classic. So, not wanting to play low percent ice, we are seeing 100%.
Yeah, it's pretty understandable that most people don't want to be running low percent ice. It's definitely the most difficult category in the tournament, so
Yeah, for
100%
sure.
on the flip side is probably the easiest just to complete. So
Yep.
we will see how that turns out.
Yeah.
GT Classic being another one of the more difficult categories since there are two big tricks that kind of gate the first half and the second half of the run. So a lot of runners who aren't comfortable with those tricks maybe don't want to deal with it. I want to shout out those first series room times. Both had a 59 8x. Those are really impressive. You have to exit basically once, like the exact frame the door opens to get an 85, I believe. So really tight series exits, and it looks like they're going to close out the series really well as well, both getting a 49 3x into the platform room. Unfortunately, both messing up the last room a little bit. So I guess that's caster curse, but oh well.
Still, both with 42s coming out of series is very, very good. So, so let's talk about these rows. So this is the 2-in-1 bracket. Very interesting bracket in general because now we're in the fourth week. We're starting to really get some separation, starting to get better matches with players with similar records playing each other. Traviktox had a win versus Mass Hysteria in week 1, a loss versus Toasty in week 2, and a win versus Thornito in week 3. Giggles won versus J-Chalk in week 1, won versus Kishmo in week 2, and lost to Aussie in week 3. The 2-1 bracket being particularly interesting because somebody is going to come out of here 3-1, somebody's going to come out of here 2-2. 3-1 puts you in really nice shape to have a potential of getting into the brackets right away at 5-1. All the 5-1s will make it in. 4-2 being that cutoff point where we expect to have a huge race for the last playoff spots to get in. And so whoever's 2-2 is going to have to win the rest of their matches just to get in.
Yeah, that 4-win mark is where you want to be if you have playoff ambitions. So this every win counts, and so both the runners are going to be trying very hard here. This matters a lot. So we will see. Giggles has a slight advantage, just having a little bit cleaner early Zeb's movement, but nothing too big yet.
And of course, as always, we pick up that very first item, that all-important morph ball.
Yeah, that allows you to access small spaces, including the first missile pack down here. Both runners having very nice construction zones with the down back strat. And both will collect their first missile.
Yeah, it's a little interesting the way we route Hundo in Super Metroid. There's several missiles that they could pick up right now. They're not going to pick those up. In fact, I always like the so-called 230 missiles. We're going to go right by that room on our way up and pretty near it a second time. But optimally routing it, we put it very last. Whereas if you were playing this game casually, it's probably the third missile pack you're going to pick up.
Yeah, there is definitely one missile pack to the right of the first missiles that you will almost definitely pick up in a casual run just by attempting to use missiles to open the door, and then you find that second missile. But there's also more items in that room that can't be collected yet, so the runners won't be getting that until the end of the game. But they did not forget about it. The route is all set up. They will get every item. Do not worry.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting how optimized the 100% route is. We are going to see. I do expect we'll see an early grapple route, which is actually the slightly less optimal route if you're really good at some of the tricks that you have to perform. If you could do the early ice route, for most runners, it's just not worth the extra trouble. Again, you know those keywords that we always talk about. Kip always talks about how something might be faster but not necessarily faster for a specific player. So I do expect we'll see early Croc today.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of praising the runners early game, so I want to give a shout out to JGiggles. After the 42 series, pulled it back together and got a sub 450 bomb time, 448. Really impressive stuff. Kind of showing the caliber of runners that are in the 2-in-1 bracket, as that is a very good time. Unfortunately, Traviktox also messes up the bomb Teresa fight a little bit. Loses about a second to the Bomb Teresa losing his head animation, but
Yeah.
he still gets through just fine.
Ideally, you want to use just enough pea shooter shots in order to, you know, just not. What is it? Is it 100 when he loses the head? You want to keep that from happening, so you want to use missiles for the rest of it.
Below 100.
Below 100. So if you fire too many shots early, then you're going to be in the wrong multiples. So I talk a little too much math here.
What happened to Traviktox there was he ran out of missiles, so he had Bomb Teresa at 100 health, but he had to finish off the fight with pea shooter shots, so that involved taking off the head. And interestingly, Traviktox is missiling his way through the pirates. That suggests to me he might be going up to get the early powerbomb pack from Red Tower.
Yeah, that is another viable route divergence. It's a small route divergence. The main benefit really isn't time so much as just peace of mind that you don't have to worry about forgetting the Kraid missiles, because it doesn't. From my understanding, it doesn't. It's pretty time neutral, but the benefit of not having to think about it, because one thing that's not time neutral is forgetting about Kraid missiles and having to come back for them at the end of the run.
Yeah, and also having power bombs is very nice. There's a couple other spots where you will be able to use power bombs instead of just going a longer way around. For example, the bottom of Bubble Mountain, you will be able to use the power bomb to break the block instead of going through with the maze.
And unfortunately, when we only have 5 missiles, we do have to go up and grab the supers before coming back and getting all these items in the back. So hopefully they can get. There's a very nice but very difficult mock ball that one can get coming out of here. Hopefully both runners can get that, and that'll save them a little bit of time over going back out around the long way and backtracking through where those supers are.
And it looks like JGiggles just jumped a little bit too late, didn't quite get up to the ledge, so he is going to have to go this upper route. Almost surprised he didn't pick up that super drop, but looks like Traviktox didn't even go for it, actually. He's just going to go up.
Yeah, I don't think it loses you too much time to go for it, so a little surprised. But, you know, if it's something you know you can't do, you might as well just do what you can. So it is a very difficult mock ball. Oh, but Traviktox does a very nice job of jumping through the floor before the crumble blocks respawn, so nicely done there.
Yeah, I believe that does save a few frames, so nice little tech there.
And we're going to head over to Big Pink. There are a ton of items in this area, and we're pretty much going to pick up just the charge beam. We do have to come back here because we don't have power bombs to get everything, or speed booster to get the waterway item. So we're going to go ahead and just grab this charge beam and leave. Even that one missile pack that's just kind of laying there, it's a little bit faster if we can pick that up using power bombs later. Pick them up while the power bomb's going off. To break those blocks just saves it. You know, not. I don't even think it's even a second, but it is. I mean, every second counts.
It's close to a full second, I believe. Maybe a little bit more, actually. I'm not sure, but it's more than you would expect from just
enough
being
enough that we're not going to pick it up now.
Right. Of course, usually you want those missiles because you want to either have a more comfortable Kraid's Lair or a more comfortable Fantoon fight. But since they picked up all the missiles behind early supers, they have plenty of missiles for
Yeah,
both of those areas. So they
exactly.
won't need to worry about it. And so I believe, oh, never mind. Traviktox actually looks like he's setting up to go down. He's not going to go pick up those alpha power bombs. So
Okay.
maybe him missiling the pirates was just any percent muscle memory. He is a
Yeah,
new
that
route
could be.
runner, so that is what you do in new route, and I believe that's what he did.
Yeah, it does. It is a little bit slower, but it's definitely safer. A new route when you're going to face that Fantoon fight with no suit and just one E-tank, you want to save as much energy as you can. Whereas an old route, you're not too worried about it. By the time you get to Fantoon, you have 2 or 3 E-tanks and a Varia suit, so it makes a huge difference. But here, we can't really diverge from the traditional Kraid Fantoon Dragon Ridley, uh, just because the way the items gate themselves. The need for space jump in one location, the need for the big thing in the wreck ship is the we have to get that reserve tank, and you're not going to want to come back there with the speed booster after you've already cleared out the rest of it. So
Yeah, there is more than a few things that gate the run from being a non-vanilla boss order route, but it's all right.
it does make it in general a relatively safe category. There are a couple of dangerous spots when we get to the wreck ship, but in terms of just being able to complete a run, it's a very safe category because we get so many items. It's you get all the safeties. Uh, Whereas, yeah, the difficulty in Hundo is typically not taking a death. The difficulty in Hundo is just it's such a long category, and there's so many strats. It's just trying to execute them all is just a very, very difficult thing.
Ooh, JGiggles actually set up for the 2 missile 3 super quick kill, but then just didn't shoot the 3 supers. Luckily, he does get the backup. Kraid will not rise out of the ground from 1 missile, so he is able to just get the 3 supers in right afterwards, while Traviktox gets a much cleaner quick kill and narrows the gap a little bit that Giggles is creating between the two. That's like a nice 5 or so second time save for Traviktox, who is still a little bit behind, but it is still early on. There's still a lot of race to go, and a lot of unique strats that the runners will have to pull off in order to keep their lead or get the lead for themselves. And so, of course, neither runner can pick up the Kraid missile. It is power bomb gated, so they will have to both skip that to the right of Kraid's lair entrant, but they will be picking up this E-tank right here, and that will be the last item before they go down to Norfair and begin their upper Norfair cleanup. There are a few items that they didn't pick up yet. They'll pick them up after lower Norfair, but they will be picking up most of the major items that they want to move around the game much easier.
Yeah, they have 3 opportunities when they're going to be back in this general vicinity to go back and get the Kraid missiles. Typically, you'll see them get it on the second pass after they leave Meridia. They could theoretically pick them up after leaving Norfair. I think that's a little bit slower because they don't quite have as many items as they'll have the next time. And the third time they go past, it doesn't really make a difference the second or third time. But you want to give yourself that leeway just in case you forget the second time. If you forget the third time and that's when you normally do it, that's when it causes trouble. Oh, Giggle's doing a nice job of killing the Nova there before dropping down so he can open the door ahead of time.
Yeah, having Spacer Beam in some of these rooms is very helpful. This is one of them because you can kill the Sova in one shot with Spacer Beam, so you're able to do that strat much easier. Usually in any percent, you see people pre-load up a charge shot going into the room, but with Spacer Beam, there's no need for that. So the runners can just use the Spacer Beam.
Yeah, you also sometimes see runners. You could also use a missile. It's very difficult to get that to work out with just a regular pea shooter shot.
Yeah, of course, using a missile has the added cost of not having that missile, which can be problematic in old route where you don't have that many missiles at this point in the game, only 10 or 15, depending on if you skip high jump missile. Most people don't, but the most optimal route does. So it can be a little bit tricky if you are using that missile.
Yep. And both runners picking up one of the easy to forget items, the missiles in the cathedral.
Yeah, every other category just jumps over that missile, so it can be easy to forget it just off of muscle memory alone. But luckily, neither runner is going to forget about it.
Yeah, there's quite a few missiles like that. We're going to see another one right here on Giggles' screen in the speed booster area.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that calls them this, but I call them the missiles of shame because I've definitely had to pick them up in an any percent run because I wasted ammo missing the door.
Nice. that works. Traviktox having a little bit of trouble doing the bubble mountain wall jumps, but he gets up there.
Yep, and he is not going to forget about that missile. Of course, he had enough ammo, but he has to pick it up because it is hundo. We've seen a couple runners pick it up after going through the speed booster door, which can get a little bit tight because the lava is about to rise when you do that. So you have only a few frames to start running after you pick it up, but it's usually not a problem.
Yeah, and you don't want to get caught by that lava. That lava is it's gonna kill you if you get caught too early with that lava. So, the game. One of my favorite things about this game, and I've talked about this in past commentaries, is it does such a good job of showing, not telling, in terms of the use of the items. So, like here, you have to run out of here. They make it so that if you wait, you're gonna die. So that's an example of, oh hey, I'm using my run button. I'm getting out of here really fast. And it kind of shows you how the speed booster works.
Yeah, another more subtle one is the this item they're picking up now, the wave beam. Normally, the runner or the player would have grapple beam and grapple across to the wave beam, and then grapple back across to avoid the spike platform below or spike pit below, and then use the wave beam to open the gate. But luckily, the developers decided to add some crumble blocks in the spike pit so that runners wouldn't just get stuck and die, and so we use those instead. So you don't get to see what the wave beam does just yet, but there will be more opportunities. Do not worry.
In fact, we're going to see one right away because assuming that we are doing early croc here.
Yeah, the runners will use the wave beam to open a gate from the other side in order to get down to Crockmire. And that will be their last area in this first Upper North Fair trip. This is one of the places that early power bombs would save a little bit of time. You could break those power bomb blocks instead of going through this little, I believe it's called pipe maze, but it's not much of a maze. It's only one path. So regardless, you could just power bomb past it, which saves less time than you would think, but still a good amount of time.
All right, and Giggles using that wave beam to open that wave gate from the backside. It's that all-important sequence break I always talk about. Getting that wave beam early just saves so much time compared to what the game intends for you to do.
Yeah, we definitely do plenty of things out of order because a lot of the sequence breaks, such as the early wave, are not actually difficult. It's just a wall jump, and you can actually get up there without wall jumping if you use your speed properly in the spike pit below, but that's a little bit more tricky. I've seen people do it in casual runs, so it's always pretty fun to watch. Regardless, it is a very powerful beam that the runners will be happy to have early.
All right, and once again, as Giggles finishing his croc fight, Traviktox starting his croc fight.
Giggles went for the wraparound shot there. I'm not sure if he got it because you don't have his audio on currently, but what he tried to do was there's an identical copy of the room to the right and slightly up, and there's a door on the very left of the room. So what he tried to do is open the door from the identical out-of-bounds copy of the room. I'm not sure if he got it, because I didn't hear the audio, but it looks like he did because he didn't go for it again, and he definitely had time to.
Yeah, it's a strat that is nice in this part of the run. There's another spot we're going to see after the wreck ship where it's really important to get that shot. Yeah, he's going to shine spark across, so he definitely got it.
Yeah, and you heard on Traviktox's audio that door opening sound effect. That is the door on the left of the room. It looks like Giggles got it. He shot the door just in case, but it looks like he just shot the empty door frame. And so it looks like both runners getting the wraparound shot very nicely.
if you don't get that shot, the Shine Spark and are unable to do the Shine Spark across. The game intends for you to grapple beam across, but you can actually just simply do a run and jump from the floor with high jump boots and speed booster. So that would be the backup if you don't get the wraparound shot.
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of things that can just be bypassed with a well-timed jump and good knowledge of the game mechanics, which, of course, all of the runners in the tournament have.
And
See
Giggles.
Traviktox spiking across,
Giggles.
sparking across.
Yeah, Giggles getting his grapple beam first. We'll see if he's going to go for the Indiana Jones strats.
Looks like he is. And
Oh, he saved it.
that was a really nice recovery, but he might be too far to the left to get onto the platform. Nope,
No,
he's
looks
got
like
it.
he's good. That's actually that's one of the more difficult strats, and it's the game's intended way for you to learn how to use grapple beam to get that missile. So
Yeah, I can safely say that I personally never got through or got across with the grapple beam in a casual playthrough. And
I've never
honestly,
done
I don't know if I have in a run either. It's
I
very
don't
difficult.
I don't even go for it in a run. I have done it in casual playthrough with these wonderful things called save states. Which, in a casual playthrough and nobody watching, it's a big who cares. But we don't condone save states here in the tournament. Traviktox is missing it, unfortunately. He'll have to back up and Shine Spark. This is going to lose him a little bit of time. The Indiana Jones strat saves time over doing this first, but if you're going to do the Shine Sparks, it's a little better to do it in the first time before you get the grapple beam rather than after.
Yeah, so Giggles pulling ahead actually off of that Indiana Jones certainly helps, but he was already pulling ahead just off of better early game movement. So he is definitely. I think he does have the better of the 200% PBs. So
Yeah, he
that
does.
is he is definitely showing why with a really solid early game so far.
Well, given that he's had a history of running hundo instead of any percent with gentlemen's agreements, he did it in the 2018 summer any percent tournament. Him versus Scotty McBody had a gentleman's agreement to do hundo, and then a couple weeks ago we had when he played J-Chalk. They did what we ended up calling a 99%. That was an any percent race. I get the idea that it's maybe his favorite category.
Yeah, he is probably happy to be running it, and he is once again showing why he is so comfortable with the category.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show the way the veto system works. That I feel like he gamed it a little bit because he vetoed GT Classic, banking on Traviktox vetoing low percent ice, and Trav did, and here we are playing hundo, and looks like MisterJGiggles in his bread and butter, right in his sweet spot, and looking really good on this run.
Yeah, what I've seen a couple people do, and what I did personally was, since not a lot of people run low percent ice, you can theoretically let the other person veto first, and then let them veto low ice, and you veto what you don't want to run, or what Giggles did, which I assume Travi tried to do the thing, but Giggles called his bluff and vetoed GT Classic. So we've got a little bit of mind games going on, which is all made possible with not many people running the low percent ice category.
All right, now we're going to pick up the regular alpha power bombs.
Yep, they can't forget the missile behind it, of course. But you see JGiggles already power bombing the blocks to reveal the missile.
Yeah, another place where the game shows how you use something. You get those power bombs, and you say, "Hey, let's see what these do," and of course, it breaks blocks.
Interestingly enough, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's only 2 destructible Chozo statues, and they're both powerbomb blocks. So that's a little bit interesting, maybe.
I never thought about that, but I think you're right. This one and the one in the wrecked ship near the reserve tank.
Yeah, there could be some lore that we could make up for that, but I'll leave that to our lovely friends in Twitch chat. Traviktox cannot grapple beam the item, unfortunately.
Yeah, that doesn't work in this game.
Did Traviktox turn off Spazer? I don't think he has yet. Interestingly, JGiggles actually turned off Spazer pretty early. Turned it off on the elevator up to Brinstar a little bit earlier than you see a lot of other players do it if they are turning off Spazer in Hundo. We'll see some runners just go for Doppler strats, since you will need to turn Spazer back on for a later strat if you turn it off. So a lot of runners just opt to use Dopplers and go for a safer 3-round or 4-round.
Well, like
But
with this many missiles, and like Traviktox in particular being a new route runner, he doesn't he may not use X Factor strats on Fantoon because a new route you don't have the wave beam to do that, so he may just be more used to doing the Dopplers anyway.
yeah, but JGiggles is going to be using the X Factor strats for just using Charge Wave and the Special Beam combo, the X Factor.
Yeah. And we do see Giggles. Remember to pick up this missile early. You want to pick this missile up now because it's a completely safe, pretty safe room with just the Coverns that show up every once in a while. Those spikes turn on after Fantoon is killed, making it kind of Spiky Room of Death Part 2. It's a very dangerous room at that point. So you want to do it before you kill Fantoon.
Yeah, interestingly enough, that's actually the only item that's available when Wreck Ship is turned off. Of course, none of the other items are accessible by normal gameplay means, but if you do get to those rooms early, the item will just not be there. So, except for that missile, so you can pick it up early. I guess you can technically get through the easiest one to get to casually would probably be the right side super missile, but you will find no super missile, and then you'll be soft locked because the robot will be in the way. You can get past it
I
on the
thought the
way
door
in,
is the
not on the
door
way
not
out.
gray? Is the door
No, the
not
door's
gray?
blue.
Oh,
The
is
door's
it?
blue, but normally when you go there casually, you can't get past the robot, but you can clip
Right.
past the robot, which is pretty easy to do accidentally. And then if you do that, you will not be able to get out.
I just learned something today. Awesome.
So JGiggles, he went for the X Factor strat, but one of the X Factor particles got intercepted by the flame, so he's going to have to do a 3-round. He didn't quite have enough damage to do a comfortable 2-round. And unfortunately, Fantoon's going to give him a 3rd round slow, as is tradition. And maybe Fantoon's higher health than I thought, because I don't think he needed to go for that much of a Doppler.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. There is the last color change that Fantoon does happen at 600 HP, but it's an extremely subtle color change. It's kind of goes from a little lighter orange to orange from a little more glowy orange, I like to call it, and very easy to miss. And I've had my share of times mistaken this if I'm not counting the number of shots I've given off. So you do have to be a little careful to make sure that it is that color if you're using that method of figuring out.
Traviktox going for a stutter Doppler there, but unfortunately, I think he started too much, actually. Didn't quite get that. Looks like he is also going to get a 4-round. So both runners having about equal Fantoons. I think Traviktox actually had a little bit better patterns, although he entered the fight later. So neither runner gaining or losing time off of the other there.
Yeah, the Fantoon fight being one of those heavy reset points for top runners when they're trying to get PBs. Unfortunately, in a race, you don't want to be resetting on a bad Fantoon fight, whether it be because you performed badly or whether it be because he just gave you a bunch of slows.
Yeah, obviously both runners are very good, but I'd say in this case it's a little bit of both. Neither runner executing perfectly, but it is good enough for a race for sure. It's JGiggles going over to the Spiky Room of Death in order to get that Wreck Ship E-Tank.
Yeah, this is kind of the last real dangerous part of the run. This room, if you mess it up, can kill you very, very quickly. Those spikes do what is it 100 with Variasuit? I'm so used to randomizer where we don't might necessarily have Variasuit going in there.
Yeah, the spikes do 30. The spike platforms do 100.
Okay. Yep. And if you mess it up, yeah, it can be very dangerous. But once we get this 5th E-Tank, then going back through the other way isn't so bad. And then we pretty much have enough health to do anything else in the run. And so we're going to pick up a ton of E-tanks in the criteria Brinstar cleanup coming up soon.
Yeah, they will want to keep their energy high for a strat coming up shortly after Wreck Ship.
Yeah,
That
mainly,
item is another item that you can potentially get to casually if you are a little bit more familiar with the game and can do basic suitless Meridia stuff. And it will, of course, also be turned off. So that is something, I guess.
Yeah, and the next, talking about that amount of energy, it's not a you're gonna die situation. It's just it saves having to stop at the ship because we're gonna do a really nifty Shine Spark, my favorite one of the game. And if you don't have enough health, you're not gonna be able to make it all the way through with that Shine Spark. So the idea is to have enough energy that you don't have to stop at the ship and take an extra refill.
You see Traviktox taking a lot of damage from the Spiky Room of Death on the way out. The good news about doing Crocomire early is you have that extra E-tank, so your health is a lot more lenient. So taking a lot of damage there won't be the end of the world for Traviktox as long as he can avoid damage from here on out, which he is maybe not doing a great job of doing, getting a little bit caught on those atomics there.
Yep. And the other nice thing is with that grapple beam, you saw them grapple across that E-tank. It's much easier to grapple across than the strats you'd have to do with the ice beam, as you'd either have to take your high jump boots off, do a very tricky jump, which is still a tricky jump without high jumps, trickier with high jump, or you can do a bomb jump across, which is not a simple one either. Yeah.
I really like what we saw Traviktox do there. He actually used Grapple Beam to take damage from one of the sparks on the ceiling so he could run through one of the sparks on the floor and get speed echoes faster. That was a really creative strat there. I don't think that's the optimal strat, so maybe a bit of a homebrew there from Traviktox. It was really cool, though.
Giggles getting that sky missile. That one has caused trouble in the past.
Traviktox's health is really low, though. Like, uncomfortably low, almost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But he'll be okay.
He might choose to grapple across the bowling room.
He might also choose to do a refill at the ship at the end, since he won't have enough.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to do a refill at the ship. I think that's just a given. Just a question of the spikes. This room that Giggles is going through, the spikes will do 30 damage with very soon. It's very difficult to do this in I think he just did it in 2 jumps, but it is more difficult to do it in 2 jumps instead of 3 with high jump boots on. So you pretty much need to expect to take 90 damage. And Traviktox, not counting his reserves, is at 111. So he can do it. We'll see if he will go for it or not.
Remember, he still needs some more health in order to actually spark up to the reserve, so he can't afford to take 90,
that's a
I feel,
really good
depending
point,
on how much his current reserve is holding.
Yeah,
Definitely wants that health drop right there.
Yeah, I think it's safer for him to just go ahead and grapple across, because I think you probably lose more time popping that reserve. Or okay, he's gonna.
That's interesting. I thought he was going to do 1 jump and then grapple the rest of the way across, but he's actually just taking the full 90. So we'll see if he has enough to spark all the way up to the wreck ship reserve. He might have to pop his reserves now and then refill at the ship.
His other choice would be to do a bit of. You can wall jump all the way up here if you want to. Obviously, you can't wall jump through the actual speed. Oh, Giggles almost falling down. Giggles, please. You can wall, but what he could do is wall jump high enough so that he doesn't have to use as much of his energy on the actual Shine Spark itself.
I still maintain that jumping on those crumble blocks is way easier if you accidentally land on them. Like, if you're trying to jump on the crumble blocks, you'll miss it every time. But if you're, like, panic jumping, it works every time. It's crazy. Yeah,
and according to Maniacal in chat, he needs 69 to make this jump. He's got 64. 40 for the Shine Spark, and then, the extra. So he is going to have to either pop the reserves or do a little bit of a wall jump.
Yeah, you can wall jump part of the way up, so I imagine that's what we'll see him do. It's very difficult to wall jump past those little spikes, but he just sparks right before them, and he is through with enough HP.
Yeah, he didn't need to get that high. He just needed to, save. looks like just 6 energy. I think he was at 63. You know, like Maniacal say, you need 69. So
I trust Maniacal to know
I do.
about Hundo more than I do.
Yep, I do too. And if any
Jay
of you missed
Giggles
his race
has
against Hero, go back and watch the VOD. That was probably our best Hundo race we've had the entire tournament so far. So
Jay
won't spoil the
Giggles
result
has
though.
much more comfortable health. You need about 250-ish in order to make the spark that they're about to do. What they're going to be doing is doing another wraparound shot to open the door to Gauntlet and then spark all the way from the right side of the landing site to the entrance to the second Gauntlet room, which takes about 200 or so energy. Jay Giggles actually doing the wraparound shot without turning on the phaser beam, which makes it a lot easier, but it looks like he gets it first try anyways, and he's going to get the spark across.
Yeah, like I said, this is my favorite Shine Spark in the game, and it's kind of funny because the game in the opening sequences kind of even suggests that this might be a possible thing you can do. Although it doesn't take it all the way through Gauntlet, it does show you sparking up to the door that where Gauntlet is. So it's kind of interesting the way the game has some of those things. It kind of shows you the special beam attacks. It shows you like crystal flashes, that sort of thing. Again, just kind of that show not tell aspect of this game.
Yeah, the attract mode has a lot of unique things that it shows off, and we use most of them in one run or another. So, thanks, dear Force.
And Giggle's doing a nice job of getting both missiles. That is a huge time loss if you fall down only one side of those crumble blocks. Some runners will go ahead and get those right away. Others will save them to the end if that happens. Either way, you're losing a ton of time that you don't want to.
So actually, Traviktox didn't even go for the wraparound shot. He just sparked across and is power bombing across the first room of Gauntlet. A little bit of a time loss there, but that is maybe him not being as practiced in Hundo as Jay Giggles, who, as we've mentioned, is most likely a big fan of Hundo with how much he runs it. You said that you ran a 99% as a troll. What item did he skip?
They skipped the missiles before GT. And the funny part about that run, and shoutouts to Shiny Zenny for commentating there. I forget who Zenny's partner was, but they skipped him twice. So they went and missed the missiles the first time around and then missed it the second time around. And it was just a bizarre race all around.
Sounds like something Giggles would do.
Yeah, it does.
Well, regardless.
Oh, it's Hockey. Okay, yeah. The Shiny is Hockey Towner, who also shouts to the Hockey Towner for doing a lot of commentary for us during this tournament. So.
Yep, Giggles has made it to the Etacoons. I believe you called it the 101st item fanfare, since they do a little
that wasn't
jingle.
me. I've heard people call it that before, though.
I heard it from you, at least. I don't know where you got it from.
I call it the troll area, those crumble blocks, and I remember playing this the first time in those crumble blocks there, and I should have known that was going to fall through because it's exactly like a room in the original game that has crumble blocks there too. And then you fall down, take the save, and you're stuck.
Well, regardless, we as wall jump experts do not get stuck, and we are just able to wall jump up to the power bombs.
Meanwhile, MisterJGiggles doing a very nice job of shine sparking up to those missiles. We're going to clean out the big pink area that we couldn't clean out before. See, is he going to go? Looks like he's going to go for the Mission Impossible.
He got the Kago through the crumble block. We'll see if he can get the jump back out, though.
Oh, barely, but he gets it.
It's a very tight trick there. But it does save a lot of time. It puts you in a much nicer position to clear out the left or the right side items in Big Pink.
I believe typically you're going to do this wave gate first. If you do Mission Impossible, you'll do it second if you don't.
That is at least what I do, but can't tell you if that's perfectly optimal or not. As he gets another E-Tank. You're going to have, I believe, 9 E-Tanks at the end of your Brinstar cleanup, so you're going to be pretty much safe from everything at this point in the game.
Traviktox not getting the Shine Spark up, but fortunately we can just wall jump bump instead.
MisterJGiggles going for a closer setup to get that super missile block from off screen, using the speed from moving to hit the block. The super missile and missile speeds both actually depend on your speed, so by moving forward a little bit, the super missile will go a little bit faster and makes it a little bit easier to hit that super block.
Yeah, there are several locations you can set up to hit that super block. Some work standing still, some you have to do that extra bit of movement. So you'll see different runners set up in different spots. You know you hit the shot, you'll see the world shake. If you missed it, yeah. So you see how everything shook when Traviktox hit it. If you don't see that shaking, you missed the shot and you'll have to try again.
It is fairly tricky. There's another way to do it using a crystal flash, but at this point, with the health totals of the runners, that
sounds like a horrible
not ideal.
Idea. Well, yeah, and Giggles picking up the waterway E-Tank, and if you ever thought that maybe doing a moon dance might be a way to avoid double dipping this area, that waterway E-Tank is the reason why that doesn't work. You have to come back and get that anyway. I've seen Scotty McBody doing that strat and running hundo that way, and then picking up the waterway E-Tank on the last cleanup as you go to the retro Bryn area, but it doesn't save time because you have to still go get that E-Tank.
Yeah, you also have to do the Brinstar cleanup while not having the movement items that you do in the traditional hundo route. You won't have speed booster, high jump, and all of that, so it is a little bit slower already. But it is doable for anyone who wishes to do it.
And of course, the time it takes to do the moon dance is also a factor. That's definitely not a fast strat.
Yeah, it takes about 90 seconds just to build up enough vertical speed in order to clip through the floor. So that is 90 seconds that you're not moving through the game, then you're just doing a little dance in the wall. Fortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing any moon dance in any tournament races. The only person who is really capable of doing it in the tournament is Shiny Zenny. There are others, but I doubt they will. Yeah,
and I'm pretty certain if Zenny gets to run RBO, probably won't do that route. We saw when he participated in the RBO tournament last summer, he did not use that route, so I would expect he would do the same here.
Yeah, if anything, the person I would expect it to do the most is actually French Landing John.
That's who I was going to say too.
He can do it, and he would definitely do it for a joke.
Oh, he sure would.
But we will have to wait for that.
Okay, Giggles picking up the Mama Turtle E-Tank. He's going to go for this charge. Oh, doesn't quite get it. If you shoot that, get that shot, if you time it right, you can shoot the block and land right on the missile. Fortunately, it's not that much harder to wall jump up to it.
Yep, he doesn't forget that missile, and he's got both the items there.
Another one of those items that's easy to forget. And next up will most likely be the Crab Supers. Another example of the show not tell, since you see these supers coming in a casual run, going up the Main Street area, and you say, how do I get to those? And then you go into the next room and you see the crab go through the hole.
Yeah, there are a lot of nice little spots like that. Traviktox actually went for a more difficult spark up to the Main Street missiles than we saw Giggles do. We saw Giggles go to a higher ledge in order to do the short charge. Well, Traviktox did a much tighter short charge at the bottom of the room. And it took him a couple tries, but he did get it. So kudos to him. That's a very tight charge.
And now heading up to the beach area and picking up these missiles here.
Another easy missile pack to forget.
Yeah, this whole area is a very easy area to forget. Like there's pretty much this and Hundo map are the only times you're gonna come up here.
I think it is a little bit easier since the runners are running with splits. Be like, how did I save a minute on this split?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I forgot.
Yeah.
To go there. Unfortunately, there's not actually a great time to go back for it, so they will just be losing time if they forget. Luckily, JGiggles does not, so it's all good. Shoutouts to Zeb316 for the raid. 13 viewers.
Yeah, it's we talked about the difficulty of this run being just the length of it and all the optimization movements that you have to do to get a really good time in this run. But the other scary part about this run is just, did I remember anything or did I forget anything? Anybody who watched Azure versus BF Robber last night, we actually saw an example of that where Azure very fortunately went to the ship to check and was down a super pack and actually had to go back and get the crab supers.
I guess you can't spoil it. Never mind. I was going to ask who won. If Azure was able to win anyways. But
I guess
we will have to watch.
There is a VOD you all can watch.
You can spoil it to me. It's okay. I won't tell anyone. Traviktox also picking up the beach missiles and the, I believe, Oasis missile and super missile. JGiggles going for an X Factor on Botwoon, but looks like only half the particles hit, and you can't actually shoot shots while the particles are floating around, even if it's only one or two. So he kind of had to wait and enjoy some nice 10 frames per second action while those particles didn't want to hit Botwoon at all. But still gets a nice 2-round, I believe, from Botwoon.
And you see him running past that E-Tank. We're going to go through this room 2 more times. So he'll pick it up in one of those 2 pass-bys. It's definitely the slowest to pick it up right now. Whether it's faster to pick it up in the second pass or the third pass, I think it's pretty time neutral between the 2.
Yeah, I think it comes down to personal preference. Like, I personally pick it up on the 3rd time to just as a refill after all of the Meridia action. But it's an option to pick it up on the 2nd time if you so desire. I don't think it gains or loses time no matter when you do it, as long as you do it not the first time.
Yep. Okay, it looks like Traviktox is going to go for the X Factors on Botwoon as he turns off his Spazer. Never to be turned on again, because by the time you would possibly need a better beam, you'll have Plasma Beam.
Okay, so Traviktox hit all 4 particles, but I'm not sure if they all hit Botwoon's head. I think some of them hit his body. So Botwoon is still killed very quickly, nonetheless. So very nice fight from Traviktox, but I think he did need to use a few more ammo shots than he would have otherwise.
And Giggles starting off with the traditional any percent strats with the speed booster and the X
spark.
Factor. It's the blue suit. The nice thing about the X Factor in the Dragon fight, if you're going to do it that way, is that if those particles start going flying all over the place, well, you're not actually shooting at that point because you're going to be using speed booster.
Yeah, JGiggles missed the halfie entirely. Both runners went for the full halfie. JGiggles missed it entirely, and Traviktox was just a pixel or so too low and actually bonked on one of the platforms, so he only got the halfie. But luckily he got the halfie where he could get onto that top ledge and finish the rest of it faster, so not too bad.
And of course, Giggles picking up my favorite item, the space jump, but does still have a blue suit that'll help him get across the Coliseum area a little bit faster.
Yep, of course, as long as you are not pressing the run button, or rather, as long as you're not running, you can actually just hold run and stand still and keep the suit. But as long as you aren't running, you will have those speed echoes. And so you can store a Shine Spark, like JGiggles did, and spark back across Coliseum. Looks like he's going to be picking up this E-Tank now on the second go-around.
Yeah, I think it's more of a peace of mind of just getting it and not having to worry about it versus the refill that you talked about later on.
Right, the refill isn't actually super necessary because you aren't really in any big danger, but it is still nice to have from personal experience.
It does look like he's... Yeah, it does look like he is going to wait on the next pass to the aqueduct items. You have 3 chances to get those as well. Again, the first time being the slowest time, the second and third being pretty time neutral. Looks like Giggles will get it on the third pass through.
Yeah, that last spark from Traviktox was actually really low. He didn't... What you want to do is spark about at the forehead because you'll hit 2 of Dragon's hitboxes. She has, I believe, 4. And so passing through each one does damage. So if you pass through 2 at once, you do more. Traviktox only passed through 1 there, but Dragon was low enough that it didn't matter. And just sparking her at all was able to finish off the fight. So he's also going to get his spark around or back across Coliseum. As JGiggles is going to the Spring Ball. This is, of course, one of the biggest reasons people do early Croc, because otherwise you would have to do an Ice Clip to Spring Ball. With Grapple Beam, you can just use the vanilla strat of breaking the grapple block and going like this.
Yeah, if you know how to do the Ice Clip, there's a very nice setup where you can do it very, very quickly. Otherwise that's going to lose you time. So if you're not good at that Ice Clip, doing it using the standard strat for it, probably better to just pick up that Grapple Beam. Plus the other advantages we talk about, getting that extra E-Tank for the wreck ship, being able to grapple across the wreck ship E-Tank, little things like that. Overall, again, we talked about this optimally. Early ice is faster, but actually performing optimally in that setting is more difficult than doing the grapple.
JGiggles doing a nice job manipulating the camera. So actually, any enemy will break those sand blocks. So JGiggles manipulates the camera to get the snail on screen, so it will move towards the sand blocks and actually break the blocks a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it saves a second or so.
Yeah, really nice strat there.
And we get the all-important Spring Ball.
JGiggles having a little bit of trouble getting out of the Morph Ball tunnel.
Yeah, the sad thing about the Spring Ball, of course, is that we get it so it's in such an awkward place that there aren't too many runs that actually pick it up. For the amount of usage, I mean, it's a fun item to have, and a lot of people talk about it as the best item in the game, as a standard meme and randomizer. But really, it's not necessary for much. It's just a fun item to have. So going out of your way to get it in an any percent run doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement tech you can do with Spring Ball, but some of it is very difficult. So even in Hundo, where you have to pick it up, it's not all seen. Traviktox doing some nice HBJs here while we wait. So shout outs to that. I don't think he's missed one yet, actually. Looks like he also...
Yeah, okay, there we go. He had that snail on screen for a second, but then went backwards and let Shacktool finish off the digging.
Yeah, maybe knowing how the strat works, but not exactly how to do it. But still, very close. And so JGiggles going up to get the Plasma Beam. Of course, he cannot comfortably kill any of these enemies until he grabs that Plasma Beam, but now he will be able to defeat them all in just 2 shots.
Yeah, some of the pirates on the walls will actually die to the power bomb. I do believe he did lay one.
He selected power bombs and then didn't lay one.
Yeah,
I think he might have meant to.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. It is actually possible to kill those pirates with either Shine Sparks or Pseudo Screws, but let me tell you, those are not fun strats to use. It's much better just pick up that Plasma Beam.
Yeah, one thing I learned from Total's enemy randomizer is that the wall pirates and the ground pirates are actually different enemies. So, neat little thing there that I guess should have been obvious since they are you can't go from the ground to the wall. So, neat little thing there that some people might not know.
Yes, I didn't know that either. It doesn't really surprise me because, like, the difference being on the wall versus being on the floor, and with the power bombs damaging the one but not the other.
Yeah, it makes sense if you think about it, but it's not something that most people think about.
Yep, exactly. Okay, one more trip through the sand pit.
JGiggles will need to remember to pick up the aqueduct items this time. We'll see what method he decides to do to use it. Looks like he might be going for the speed echoes. Let's see if he can get it. Doesn't quite get the blue suit going through the door, so we will just have to do a short charge on this little ledge. He gets that, though, and is able to spark up to the aqueduct items. This is much safer than doing the space jump with blue suit strat, since if you don't do it properly, there is a chance you can actually soft lock in between the speed blocks, which has happened to a lot of top level Hundo runners. So
yeah, that can happen. Actually, could also happen even if you're not using that strat. If you try and do that spark with a low enough energy at any point, either from that area or from the bottom, because of course at 29, that shine spark's just going to run out, and if you're not above those last speed blocks, that's it. You're soft lock. Granted, that's not going to really happen in a hundo run because you have plenty of energy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, luckily the runners have plenty of energy, so they aren't gonna have to worry about soft locking if that's the strategy they're using.
It is something that could come up in a randomizer situation, but yeah, not going to come up in a hundo race.
Looks like Traviktox also went for it, but didn't quite get the short charge either. So he's gonna go for the short charge here. JGiggles has picked up his left sandpit item, so that is all of Meridia done, I believe.
Yeah, we do the left sandpit last for a couple reasons. Obviously, the big part is it's closer to Norfair, but it's also the one where Spring Ball is much more useful than the other location. Having that Spring Ball to get those items is really nice.
It's also would be a little bit counterintuitive to go down the left one first, since you would have to immediately go to the right for Spring Ball. And we see JGiggles going to pick up his criteria, or Parade Power Bombs, rather.
Yep, like we said, this is the most likely time to pick it up. Picking up on the way down to Lower Norfair, so that if you do forget it, or if the plan is to pick it up on the way down, if you forget it, you still have a shot to pick it up on the way up. If the plan is to pick it up on the way up, yeah, then and you forget, then that's quite a bit of backtracking.
Well, regardless, he has that collected. So now there are only 3 more locations left. He has the rest of Norfair, which is actually maybe counts as 2 areas between the Upper Norfair remaining items and all of Lower Norfair. But then it is just Criteria and Retro Bridstar and X-Ray. I guess there's more than I thought.
Yeah, well, extra we do late, one because we don't really need it for anything, but also because we'll have Space Jump and Screw Attack to just fly through that room. That room is very dangerous until you have both those items, and once you have both those items, it's just super easy and free. We do first have to pick up this Ice Beam.
JGiggles does collect the Ice Beam. That is the fully powered up beam combo. So both Ridley and Mother Brain will take 20 shots from that beam. So
Traviktox also getting Traviktox also getting that Crade missile now. And in Hundo, you're almost always going to take the southern route here because you're going to need to pick up this crumble block missile, which is one of the more annoying missiles to pick up in the game. Because if you fall down that crumble shaft, trying to get up is a big pain and not very much fun.
Yeah, we've actually seen a lot of runners spark over to the missile in order to guarantee that they get it without falling down the shaft.
Yep. That's a nice strat for that too.
I've seen what some runners do is actually freeze that Nova or Sova. Either one works. But The one
Yep.
that you saw JGiggles do a deboost off of, you see some runners freeze it and then jump off of that up to the missile.
Yeah, that works as well. Giggle's getting a nice space jump through this grapple room. Didn't quite get the super speed space jump out of the Croc Speedway, but still doing a nice job getting through. Doesn't quite get the chronic boost, but he'll with space jump. This will still be pretty easy.
Yeah, he does do the backup boost off of the. Is that a Namahe or a Fune?
I believe the
Namahe.
Namahes are the ones that you can't destroy, so that would be a Namahe.
Yep, does a deboost off the Namahe Flame. It is 50 damage instead of the 1 from the Multiviola, but it is still not that bad in Hundo since you have so much energy.
And you'll notice that he went to the right a little bit before doing the space jump across. That allows him to do a short charge into a Speed Echo's space jump. And if you don't do that, you will get hit by the steam moving over, and you'll lose more time than the time that it took to go backwards a little bit. And we talked about this.
Gonna use the spring ball there.
We talked about this earlier. So this statue is why we can't do Kraid before, or Ridley before Kraid. Sorry, Ridley before Dragon. Oh my god. That statue checks for whether you have space jump or not. It is possible to get across there without the space jump, but you won't be able to actually drain the acid, and then you won't be able to get this missile here because crumble blocks are a thing, and Giggle's doing the safe strat of just springballing across because you can just hold down the jump button and you'll just bounce off as soon as you land on them.
Yeah, there have been some strats developed in order to get that missile, and it is technically humanly possible, but it's not run viable yet. So we have not seen anyone do it. If anyone can find a run viable strat, you won't actually get anything, but you will get a strat named after you.
I believe it involves some weird crystal flash clipping with some sort of, I don't know, I can't get into any more detail than that because I just don't know. But yeah, I think it is a doable task, but definitely is not doable or has not become viable in an actual run.
And sorry, I had to step away for a bit. JGiggles getting a really nice shot onto that green gate, shooting it horizontally instead of diagonally. There's a very tight window for that, and JGiggles hits it.
And also does a nice shine spark through fast pillars. And about to show us why worst room in the game really isn't when you're doing Hundo, because with high jump, space jump, and screw attack, this becomes just another room. In particular, that screw attack, and of course, plasma beam being a nice thing as well. Picking up the mouse missiles here.
Yep, all those blocks below the bomb blocks that you saw JGiggles screw attack through are actually crumble blocks. If you fall through those, you can lose a lot of time since you will have to loop back around.
Yeah,
luckily he does not.
Very important that you use regular bombs or screw attack to break the bomb blocks, because if you use power bombs to break them open, trying to avoid falling through those crumble blocks becomes a much more difficult prospect.
Yep, JGiggles has all the items just rampaging through Lower Norfair. I'm a big fan of this part of the game with every item. I think there's a lot of fun strats.
Yeah, I always talk about Lower Norfair as my favorite area because the differences. I feel like there's just the differences between having every item or some items just makes this area so interesting. So it's a different experience depending on what item set you have.
It's my favorite area in the game for every category that picks up plasma. Let's say that.
That's fair.
JGiggles picking up that power bombs of shame.
Not really shameful in Hundo though, because we do have to pick up everything.
The shameful part is running Hundo in the first place. We'll see what strat JGiggles does for the metal pirates. Looks like he's just going to do safe strats. Gonna kill the pirates one at a time. Executes it very nicely.
Yeah, the optimal way to do that is if you can get the pirates in the center in the right formation, you can actually and get them double shot with a charge shot, because the plasma beam will go right through them. So it becomes much quicker. But he did a very nice job of one rounding each one of them with the charge shot. So, and like I said, 20 shots on Ridley here.
Yeah, we'll see if he uses any super missiles at the end to speed up the fight, but I expect him to just do a 20 shot Ridley. Nice and safe. He's got plenty of energy and infinite charge shots.
I'm actually going to go ahead and switch the audio over now. Get that Ridley music.
I'm a big fan of the normal Lower Norfolk theme, personally. It's a good theme. JGiggles gets a nice Ridley kill, gets grabbed right as he hits 20 shots.
And you see the way Traviktox going through. He doesn't do them both at the same time, but he does the double shot them by shooting that charge shot while they're running away from him.
Yeah, killing each pirate with one shot instead of two actually saves around 3 or so seconds. So Traviktox gets a little time save there, but JGiggles is still comfortably in the lead as we see a high five in the door transition to Ridley as JGiggles is exiting.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, Giggles is going to have to make some sort of mistake. It is close enough that if he does make some sort of mistake, and it could be something as simple like if he misses baby skip and Traviktox hits it, but he does have a nice comfortable lead that he's accumulated very well in this race. Very, very good execution throughout.
Yeah, at the moment, JGiggles is more than a baby skip in the lead.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
So he will have to make more mistakes than just that, but it is possible. Traviktox is a very good runner. His execution is very good. I believe he has a 45 NA%, so no slouch. So we'll see what he can do.
Okay, Giggle's gonna pick up this Fire Fleet E-Tank.
Yep, a nice little area here. I'm a fan of this area. What are your thoughts on it? This little
I think it's pretty
alcove
neat.
behind the Fune.
Yeah, you get the kind of the Ridley representation with the jaw there. You got the claws on the bottom. The atmosphere with the fire fleas, making it darker as you kill those fire fleas.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all the Firefly rooms. It's a shame they're also all filled with spikes, which is a little bit less cozy, I suppose. But
That's a
the
really good
ambient
point.
lighting is something I'm a fan of.
And it's interesting that they give you this nice X-ray scope to get through to find things, but this is the one of those places where the X-ray scope doesn't work. So, there are people that when you play casually, sometimes they think, oh, I have to go back through the acid, and don't find that little hidden cove that you go through to get out.
Yeah, I guess the other nice thing about that room is it's actually not heated. That room with the Firefly E-Tank. I think that actually has something to do with the Firefly's room. They wouldn't be able to do the heated effect and the Firefly lighting effect.
Oh, that's
so they just made it not heated. And that is actually really helpful for reverse boss orders, since it's a place where you can both refill your energy and not worry about losing it. And it's one of the reasons RBO is even possible.
Yeah, and if you've never really paid attention before, you can look to Derp's point. If you watch the way the background in this room that Giggles is in is kind of wavy, and actually the one that looks like, Traviktox is still in one of those rooms as well. You see how it's kind of wavy like that? That's how you can tell it's a heated room if you don't actually have the barrier suit on.
Yeah, obviously the runners won't be going there, but you can actually notice in one of the rooms that you would normally be going to the Forgotten, or going to Lower Norfolk and New Route. I like to call it the
Remembered Highway. I like to call it the Remembered Highway because we remembered it for New Route.
But the room that slowly rises up with lava, if you enter it from the back, which you do in New Route actually, it actually isn't heated. If you watch the background in a New Route run, the background won't be wavy. And obviously, you'll take damage from the lava, but you won't take damage from just being in the room without a suit. So a little interesting thing there. I think that has something to do with the lava not rising, like the room being in a different state since the lava's fully risen if you enter from the top.
Mm.
And they might have just forgotten to also add the heat trigger or something like that. I don't know how it all works. I'm not a
and of
game
course
developer.
it's remembered because in a casual playthrough, that's how you get up Bubble Mountain. Since you're probably not going to be able to wall jump right away, except you go in the reverse direction of what New Route does.
JGiggles needs to go pick up this last Norfair item, the missile, Bubble Mountain missile. I think while we're on the topic of cozy spots on the map, I think the coziest is a little ledge right below Spazer. There's just a little ledge where you can see the door before you find out how to get to the door. I think that's a nice little area. There's some water below you. It's cozy. if you ignore the man-eating enemies. We take what we can get sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Traviktox grabbing his last reserve tank and gonna get this missile here, and we'll shortly head to the Bubble Mountain missile. It's his last missile in the north area.
Yep, they will need to pick up X-Ray, and then they will be on their way to clean up Retro Brinstar and the last few items in Criteria. We'll see if the runners decide to do a refill at the ship to make sure they have everything. It's kind of hard to tell since it's hard to watch both runners at once.
Yeah, I don't recall either one of them skipping anything. Traviktox with 191 missiles is close enough that maybe if he gets some good drops, we might be able to tell for sure, because the most likely thing you would skip is a missile. At 145 for Giggles, he's probably not going to get enough missiles for us to be able to tell.
Yeah, I believe there are 5 more missile packs that the runners will need to pick up, so Traviktox has at least 220, and I assume he has the last 2. I would imagine he didn't skip 2 missile packs. But that is one of the ways that Traviktox can come back in this if JGiggles has forgotten item somewhere. That, especially if it's somewhere in Lower Norfair where he has to backtrack for close to 10 minutes just to get it. That would be a rough time for sure, but I don't think he missed one.
And Giggles showing both. Basically, this is why we do X-ray so late. Again, with that space jump screw attack combination, just cuts right through that area, no trouble whatsoever. Whereas you want to do this with grapple beam earlier, it's much more difficult.
Doesn't quite get the reverse slinky, or at least the setup for it.
That's a really hard strat. I forget, maybe it was you that was talking about it, but the number of people that have actually even done this in practice may still be single digits, let alone doing it in a run, let alone doing it in a race. But it is fun when you get it. I speak from experience of watching other people do it, not from experience of actually doing it.
Yeah, most people who aren't hundo runners aren't really attempting it in practice either, much less in runs. So there will not be many people doing it in the near future, I imagine.
And you notice the other reason why we pick up that X-ray late is you'll notice Giggles having accidentally menued to it and trying to run.
You did it again.
It gets in the way.
Item cancel is your friend.
It really is.
I think that was speaking from personal experience. That's one of the things I've learned in longer categories like Hundo and GT Classic is using item cancel instead of just menuing all the way to the to the right, because you will select X-ray and you will be sad because you cannot move.
Agreed.
Traviktox not quite getting the short charge through the bomb blocks. Those are bomb blocks and not power bomb blocks, but it is easier to just power bomb through them, like you saw Giggles do. He actually didn't even go for the short charge. He just went for the power bomb. As JGiggles picks up the beta missiles. I believe the old 100% route, the Red Scarlet route, actually picked those up second right after the Alpha missiles. But
Interesting.
it is, of course, faster to just pick them up now, since you already need to pick up the Billy Mays missiles and this E-tank in the ceiling that you see Traviktox getting.
And you notice where he laid that power bomb. Also, Giggles do the same thing. Allows the power bomb blocks below that tunnel to get up to Billy Mays to be stopped right at the exact right spot to be able to wall jump that easier. You can also, of course, speed booster up there, but is a little bit faster if you can screw attack through those blocks instead of using the speed booster because of the crash animation at the end of the Shine Spark.
Yeah, the crash animation is, I believe, close to 2 seconds. I want to say 100 frames, but it might be more than that. So it is a very long animation that you have to wait through if you spark across.
Yeah, Maniacal with the knowledge on the old Hundo route, the no reverse early supers mock ball or the no wraparound shot for and doing a late gauntlet instead. I know Maniacal was very much a student of the old Red Scarlet run, so he would know.
Yeah, most of my knowledge of that old route I get from Freya Spirit, one of the...
Another very good runner.
Another very good runner. They actually have a very good 90% time now, actually. I think they're beating me now. Obviously, anyone above me is just a really good runner. That's how it works.
Okay, now just one last missile pack for Giggles here.
Yep, we will be at hopefully 230. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think this is not enough of a lead. I mean, it's a pretty good lead, but it's not enough of a lead that I would think he'd take any chance of going to the ship and checking it. So he's just going to go right on into Turian. Traviktox about to get his last super missile pack. We didn't talk about this strat on Giggle's side, but it's really neat if you have this full wave, full combo. Unfortunately, Trav messing it up. But if you do that precisely, you can freeze those enemies as you run by them and just run and spark up. He's gonna try going for it a second time. Unfortunately, that one isn't cooperating, so he's just gonna go for a short charge.
Yeah, really tight short charge there. Unfortunately, he is losing time on Giggles, who is already in a comfortable lead, which is not ideal. But Giggles entering G4 at about 116.34, so about a 123, mid-high 123 pace for him, assuming that Turian goes optimally. It takes 7 minutes with this item combo to do Turian optimally, but obviously we can expect that kind of execution from everyone. It's very difficult, so assuming he gets baby skip, it'll be about a 720 Turian. So we'll see if Giggles can get that 123. Shine Spark Crash is 70 frames? I feel like it's more than that. Well, regardless, it is more than a second, which is more than some people expect. Giggle's going to be turning off Screw Attack and Varia, and also Spring Ball. I don't know if he meant to, but he turned off Spring Ball. I imagine he accidentally menued to it, and then since he's not going to use it anyways, he just left it off.
I mean, obviously, then he's not going to go for the new Spring Ball. Well, it's not really that new, the Spring Ball Zeb skip, but it's become rather popularized as they'll start to use it in some of his GT Classic runs. So you're just seeing more and more GT Classic runs and Hundo runs with the Spring Ball Zeb skip, which actually, technically, if my understanding is correct, does not need Spring Ball, but just makes it easier to do.
Yeah, you can actually get up to the Zeb by just morphing and unmorphing quickly. So I don't think JGiggles is going for it since he turned off Screw Attack. One of the main benefits of the Spring Ball Zeb skip is that you can do it with Screw Attack.
Yeah.
That's the two reasons why people do it. You can do it with Screw Attack very easily, and it doesn't actually take any energy if you do it optimally. So it's very useful for GT Classic. If you can get to Mother Brain's Rainbow Beam without taking any damage, you can actually skip refilling.
Yep, and in both GT Classic and in Hundo, supering the first Zeb doesn't really cost anything because you have so much ammo. in say an 80% run, even if you were to do it without the spring ball, you're not going to want to waste those supers. Those supers are absolutely precious. You need them for Mother Brain 1. So you're not going to do that strat even if you're good at doing it without the spring ball.
Yeah, absolutely. JGiggles going for the baby skip here. That first jump was actually kind of sketchy, but he recovers very nicely. We'll see if he can close it out. And he does. A couple extra jumps, but still very nice from JGiggles.
And Hundo, given how much energy he has, much bigger deal of getting that because you have to sit and wait while those energy tanks are taken away.
And we do have confirmation that Traviktox has all of his missiles, 230. JGiggles unfortunately didn't get the full refill. He had a little bit lower missile count entering and only has 218 right now. So I think he has all of them as he goes for the very standard Zeb skip without any fancy strats. I think he has all of them, but we will not know until the end of the credits. As he shoots some missiles into Mother Brain as he waits. Well, Traviktox goes for the baby skip as well. He's going for a much laggier setup, shooting those enemies on the ceiling, but unfortunately doesn't quite get it. Gets grabbed and will have to wait at the exit. If he was to leave the room with the baby on top of him, he would have the baby slow down once he exits the room, which would be very bad.
And what we didn't see on Traviktox's side, that we've seen from a few runners, is popping those reserve tanks so you could do a crystal flash rather than going to the refill room. But given that a crystal flash needs you to have 0 in reserve to do that, he'll have to just take this refill. Or I guess there is the riskier strat of getting all the way to Mother Brain 2 and doing a crystal flash there, but that is extremely risky. So just get the refill and go.
I think the old TAS of 100% actually would pop the reserves since he had full 400 reserves, and then just not do the stand-up. It would just do the fight with 400 energy.
Yep.
Which of course would be very difficult. You don't have any leeway if you got hit by any of Mother Brain's more powerful attacks. You would be over. Your run would be over. But it is...
Yeah, it would essentially be an 80% Mother Brain fight. But yeah, it's in this situation, no reason to do that. Probably doesn't have full reserves anyway, so...
Yeah, I don't think you ever really get a chance to refill your last 2 reserves. So, not ideal.
And Giggles so far executing the stand-up glitch with no trouble.
Yep, there's a few spots where the game tries to lock you down to the floor once the baby appears on screen and once the baby lets go of Mother Brain. Luckily, JGiggles doesn't... Or he's in the air for both of those, so he doesn't... He gets locked in the crouch animation, but immediately goes back to a standing animation from landing from a jump.
And you can... the X-ray scope will help you out of some of those soft locks. There is also a... potentially, he has to be careful here when his beam switches from the plasma charge, the full beam combo to the hyper beam. So you see how he stops shooting for a second? Looks like, what, 4 shots? 3 shots? 4 shots?
I counted 4 that actually hit.
Yeah. So very nicely done. Traviktox setting up for his stand-up glitch.
Yeah, JGiggles, it is still technically possible for him to get a 123, but he would have to be moving in this escape. It would have to be very close to perfect. Either way, a low 123 in a race, if that's what he ends up with, is a very solid time. I believe his PB is a 122?
Yeah, 122.
Correct, though.
Yep. 122.26, in fact. They both have PBs of 122. Traviktox with the 122.48.
Yeah, so both runners being very good at the game. As it turns out, that is the caliber of runners we have in the 2-in-1 bracket. These runners have even lost a game. So just a testament to how good some of the runners have become in this game. Alright, I've seen the SRL results, but I won't spoil it for anyone. It's gonna be close. Looks like he enters the ship, actually crouches at the entrance to the ship, so lost a second, but enters the ship with a 124.01. He got done in first place with a 124.04, so GG to JGiggles. And now it is just waiting to see if the credits show 100. But Traviktox is not too far behind, only about a minute and a half. We'll see if he decides to save the animals, though, since the race is already lost. It's having a very nice escape, though. Had a bit of a rough door transition at the beginning. And it looks like we are joined by MisterJGiggles, the victor of this race. So, GG, how you feeling about this?
Yeah, GG's.
So it's kind of funny. I was watching my splits the whole time, and I started out ahead at bombs by 5 seconds, and I lost like a couple seconds on every split other than Fantoon, and ended plus 134 in my PB. Considering I haven't done like a formal practice or run on this in a while, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you.
The race is very good.
Traviktox deferred to you for the veto. Did you veto GT Classic in the hopes that he would veto Ice? And what would have been your reaction if he had chosen Ice as the category?
Your speculation actually wasn't too far off. I was hoping for a hundo race, but at the same time, I've been practicing low ice all week. And I know Traviktox, based on what I saw, I looked at his stream history, I looked at his SRC and Deer Tier, and he doesn't have a lot of practice with low ice. In fact, the only thing I found on low ice was something he did a week and a half ago, and it took him over 2 hours. So I kind of assumed he was going to veto it, but on the off chance, I needed to be ready for it.
Sure.
So I figured my odds were better doing hundo or low ice than GT Classic. So I just figured if I get rid of that, then I have a decent chance, and it'll be a good race either way.
So yeah, that's very well done. Because it's interesting the way the whole veto system works. You know, a lot of times you feel like a lot of runners will feel like deferring is the right answer. I assume then if he had just flat out vetoed hundo, you just would have called the bluff and gone with the low ice then.
Oh, absolutely.
that could have been a fun one to watch too. We haven't seen too many low ice races this week, so a little sad that didn't happen. But
side of that, though, if he had vetoed GT Classic, then we'd still be doing hundo, because I'm more comfortable with hundo than low ice.
Oh, for sure.
It's even with practice all week, low ice is too volatile a category to put all my eggs in that.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the higher the better PB in hundo, so yeah, definitely put you in your sweet spot, I think.
Speaking of which, Traviktox does finish with a time of 1:25.48, which is a PB or race PB by about a minute and a half. So, congrats to Traviktox. He will not be joining us for an interview, but very well done. So, I personally don't have any questions for JGiggles, so I'll let you continue, Tracy.
There's not a whole lot left. What else do you want? What else would you like to add, Giggles, about this run? I mean, it's a very clean run. Not a whole lot. Not a huge amount. Getting all the items in the right orders. Not a whole lot of mistakes. Just overall, how do you feel about it?
It feels a little weird, if I'm being honest. It feels weird doing a hundo that's not
a meme.
Hundo and 80%, 99%, and 80%.
I did your race in the any percent tournament a couple of years ago against Scotty.
That's what I was saying. It feels weird to do hundo correctly instead of just be caught.
I remember you guys started to collect all the items in the early supers area, and we knew something was up, and I believe it was Scotty that wrote hundo is fundo in SRLs. So this time you just got to actually run 100%. So
Yeah, it's good. Curious to see what next week brings, and still hoping for the off chance I get to do an RBO race.
oh, that'd be fun.
And next week the categories are, I believe, 90% all bosses, RBO, and GT Classic. So what are you thinking about for next week?
I'm thinking I hope I get to race RBO.
Well, you will be in the 3-run bracket, so that definitely makes it more likely that you're going to face an opponent that's going to be willing to run some RBO with you. So, yeah, 3-1. How you feel about that?
I mean, it's also feels weird because before this tournament, I was out for about 5 months, so everything right now feels like D-Rust. Everything. And being able to run a low 124 in Hundo, granted Fantune was the bulk of that time loss. When I'm this rusty, feels good, but it still feels rusty. So every week is nerve-wracking, regardless of the category. So it feels weird. It feels weird to be winning at all, but it feels weird to feel rusty in every race.
Well, I'll tell you, you sure didn't look rusty today, so I don't know if that helps, makes you feel any better. But
My heart did skip a beat in wreck ship, but I almost missed that reserve take. But
oh yeah, because was it you that had no? One of you had no. It was Traviktox had the low. Oh yeah, because you almost fell through the crumble block. That's what Traviktox had some issues going up there because was really low health, so he had to do the slight bit of wall jumping to get the spark, whereas you almost fell down the crumble blocks. Which is probably, to be fair, not the worst crumble blocks to fall through. Just ask Chinese Zenny from. Well, I mean, you raced him, didn't? No, you. No, that was a different race. No, but when he did his 100% run a few weeks ago, crumble blocks were definitely a thing for him. So.
Oh, crumble blocks.
But yeah, anything else you want to add before we close this out?
No, I think I'm good. I'll see you kids next mission.
Alrighty then. We do have a whole lot of races coming up. I saw someone in chat mention that apparently we got, right now on SpeedGaming 3, we have Balthazar versus French Lightning John, and someone in chat said they're doing some low ice over there, so definitely want to tune in for that. But on this channel, at 3 o'clock, we have one of our 3-0 versus 3-0 races, two of the best in the business, Kip versus Sloters, so definitely want to tune in for that one. At 4 o'clock, we have 2 races. We have Beeps versus Thornito and P-Toil versus Mumudidi. At 7 o'clock, another super hype match. We have another 3-0 versus 3-0, Asi versus the one and only Zost. At 9 o'clock, we have Nin Toaster versus Fruit Bat Salad. I believe that's a 2-1 versus 2-1. And then at 10 o'clock, we have Cross Product versus Kishmo. So a whole lot of Super Metroid coming your way the rest of the day. So I hope you all tune in for all of that.
Yeah, gonna be some hype races. Obviously, the 2 p.m. race that is currently going on right now is low ice, and I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but there's a good chance the race right here between Kip and Sloters might also end up a low ice race. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once again, don't want to get anyone's hopes up.
I've been whispering in those guys' ears that a low ice match between those two would be fun, but we'll see if it actually happens or not. But yeah, so that'll do it for us. And we'll see you on the other channels.